Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Balakrishnan, and good afternoon, Mr. Mahabaleshwar.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Another many
As for others, we are just waiting for them to join, but I think we should probably come at proceeding. So a very warm welcome to our esteemed guests who have joined in. And thank you participants for joining in through logging in. So State Bank Institute of Leadership Kolkata presents to you a leadership power talk in association with Karnataka Bank on impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence, an intro to Senior BFSI Management. Our distinct speaker is Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, founding CEO, Reliefcom, author and ex-chairman, IIM Calcutta. To grace the occasion, we are joined by Shri M.S. Mahabaleshwara, MD and CEO, Karnataka Bank, and Shri Madhukar Anand, General Manager and Director, SBIL. To flag off this leadership power talk, let me invite Director Sir for his opening remarks. And to introduce Sir briefly, Shri Anand joined SBI way back in 1985 as a probationary officer. He has served as RM Chandigarh, DGM BNO in Luru City, and has headed close to 450 branches under Network 3 of Ahmedabad Circle. He was serving as GM FI and MM, Ahmedabad Circle, before assuming charge as GM and Director, SBIL Kolkata. In his diversified career spanning 35 years, he has held the position of COO at Nepal SBI Bank from 2007 to 2012. Previously, he was part of IT ALM Treasury project at the Corporate Center, where he led a team which redesigned the bank's transfer pricing system. So has also played an instrumental role in revamping the bank's asset liability management. Shri Anand has a master's degree from IIT Kanpur, and he loves to read and travel. I request you, sir, to give the opening address.
Thank you, Dr. Shoma. A very warm welcome to our distinguished panelist for today's program, Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, founding CEO, Reliefcom. He's also the ex-chairman of IIM Kolkata and a member of the committee that updated Indian IT Act 2008. He had also chaired the Ministry of Information Technology Working Group on Internet Governance and Proliferation from 2005 till 2008, as well as the Education Ministry's Committee on Online Education 2010. He chaired the Education Ministry's Committee on National Education Policy, Subcommittee on Higher Education and Employment 2019. He has created a masterpiece in the form of his book, The Wave Rider, a chronicle of the information age. I would also like to extend my warm welcome to Mr. M.S. Mahabaleshwara, MD and CEO of Karnataka Bank. It is a privilege that he could find time to address the August gathering today. A special invite to the cohort of executive participants of Karnataka Bank who are presently undergoing leadership development programs at our SBIL. My faculty and staff colleagues on my own behalf, on behalf of SBI and the State Bank Institute of Leadership, I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this virtual panel discussion on impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence, an intro to Senior BFSI Management. I would like to take this opportunity to mention that training at State Bank has always been proactive, planned, and continuous. It has been a century-old concept and an integral part of organizational development. We offer the largest learning and development infrastructure in the BFSI space in India, for not only bankers of SBI, but also other banks. We are equipped to cater to the need of all banking domains, including executive education areas, by conducting business analytics-driven relevant training programs. We bankers face a dilemma during adoption of digital technology. That to take a strategic risk of being a leader in adoption of the technology or wait till the technology matures. I'm sure we will have wonderful takeaways to work on and such points and the possibility of leveraging machine language and artificial intelligence in the different banking domains of human resources, learning and development, and financial inclusion. These would be deliberated in detail. Thank you and welcome all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your opening remarks. And I am now going to introduce the moderator for the event, Dr. N. Krishnapurnar. Professor Krishnapurnar is Dean at SBIL. As a career banker, he has more than 15 years of progressive banking experience with varied profiles, wherein he grew from entry-level probationary officer to a multinational level bank general manager level executive. He has worked with both nationalized, private, as well as foreign banks. He is exposed to both general and specialized streams of banking and has headed the risk and treasury functions. As an academic, he has held leadership positions for nearly 10 years and has held directorship, deanship in 3 different universities. He has published more than 60 publications in both national and international journals. As a consultant, he consults on risk management, restructuring, business, and policy. He has consulted and served as OD consultant in IBRD, World Bank, SDC, UNDP, and ADB assisted projects. I now request him to take over the proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Shoma, and thank the director for giving the intro about the institute, about this particular program. And just to give the people who are not initiated in this particular format of training, apart from doing a lot of training for bankers, we are also conducting programs which are mega event, wherein we try to share the cutting edge themes for a larger audience. And we have already done that. This is in fact the 6th event that we conducting maybe in about 6 months. Every month at least 1 or 2 events we conduct. And many times we also try to do it in partnership with other banks. So this is the time, our Karnataka Bank has come forward, and we really thank the Karnataka Bank for having allowed us to do this particular program on a very, very important theme on impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence, intro to Senior BFSI Management. And no better speaker than today's speaker who will be doing the power talk, Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, who has been the thought leader on this theme, and I'll introduce the full introduction at a later time. But I would request for the purpose of the audience, the MD and CEO of Karnataka Bank, Ms. Mahabaleshwara, to do the welcome address to welcome the guests. When we started, I noticed that attendees were 100, now it is a very swell to 155. And I'm sure that by the time it ends, you'll have definitely 200 to 250 plus attendees. And the registrations were in about somewhere around 600. And also, I believe it's about 40 to 50% of the registration that people tune in. And it's also true that we are also live streaming this into the Facebook live page as well as the pages. Yes. So over to you. Just to introduce Ms. Mahabaleshwara is a very senior banker, extremely well understood. And there's a very clear plan of particular, and they've been supporting their executives on various measures. And just now in the morning, when we were introducing and introducing participants, was telling how much disruption is taking place, especially driven by technology. So with that intro, I thought I'll hand over the mic to Mr. Mahabaleshwara to welcome the guest. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Krishnapurnar. Good afternoon to all the participants. It's a great occasion. Of course, the morning hours also, I had an opportunity of connecting to you all. So now in the august presence of Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, CEO of Reliefcom, as well as ex-chairman of IIM Calcutta, who is considered as a thought leader for industry. I am again reconnecting to you all. Friends, all of you are aware that we are all living in an era of disruption. So whether you like it or not, it is sweeping the industry without any exception, whether it is banking industry or the IT industry, whatever it may be. The second striking point is this disruption is powered by technology. So let us be very clear about these two things. One is the disruption, second one is this disruption is powered by technology. So with this background, State Bank Institute of Leadership as well as Karnataka Bank, we thought it fit to have a leadership powered talk by a true leader in this area. So that is why they have invited Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan, sir, on behalf of State Bank Institute of Leadership, on behalf of Karnataka Bank, and all the participants who have joined through this video streaming. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir, Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan. Welcome to you, sir. I'm also very happy to note that this particular August gathering through virtual mode today has the presence of our director of State Bank Institute of Leadership, who just spoke, Mr. Madhukar Anandji, as well as, of course, our own Dean, Professor N. Krishnapurnar, and our program coordinator, Dr. Shoma Srivastava, as well as all the faculty members and other interested eminent personalities. They have joined us. Let us also extend a warm welcome to all these personalities. I'm also very happy to share with you that our own chairman, Karnataka Bank's chairman, Mr. P. Jairam Bhatt, and few of our own bank's directors, they too have joined out of sheer curiosity, because artificial intelligence and machine learning, these are the buzzword in the banking industry. So naturally, these words have a great attraction also, power of attraction. So they too have joined. Along with that, almost all my executives from my bank, that is Karnataka Bank, they are also very eager to hear Mr. Ajit ji. So I am very happy to extend a warm welcome to each of them. So once again, warm welcome to Mr. Ajit Balakrishna, and we are all looking forward for his great leadership power talk. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One second. I'll just introduce fully formally. Thank you, Mr. Mahabaleshwara, for the welcome address to the gathering. As an audience, I think people are still tuning in. Maybe, in fact, our director itself has given a brief of Ajit's profile, but I thought still that people are giving the full profile. So here it goes. Profile of Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan is the founding chairman, CEO, and principal shareholder of Reliefcom, one of the earliest .com ventures from India, as some of you would know. Graduated from IIM Calcutta in 1971 with 2 awards. What are the public roles here, sir? He is the chairman and board of governors of IIM Calcutta for 2 terms, 5 years each, 2006 to 2016. And in fact, it was during that time that IIM Calcutta became the only triple crown institution in India with 3 international accreditations of AACSB, AMBA, and EQUES. Getting international accreditation is not generally very easy, especially for a higher education institution. And he's a member of the committee that updated Indian IT Act 2008, personally wrote Section 79 of the intermediaries, on intermediaries. Then he's a member of Education Ministry's review committee. It's an IIM review committee of 2008, and this, the theme is IIMs from great teaching institution to thought leadership centers. Chaired Ministry of Information Technology Working Group on Internet Governance and Proliferation in the year 2005 to 8. He chaired the Education Ministry's Committee on Online Education in 2010, underlined 2010. Chaired Education Ministry's Committee on National Education Policy, what we call NEP, Subcommittee on Higher Education and Employment in 2019. We call it NEP in the center implementation. A lot of things we've talked about that. And Mr. Ajit grew up in a small town called Kannur. The erstwhile name is Kannur in the Malabar coast of Kerala, and is a son and grandson of medical doctors. is the author of the book, as our director was earlier telling, Wave Rider, the Chronicle of the Information Age, published by Macmillan, one of the best books, wherein he very clearly chronicles how the particular .com venture was, the way to getting listed in NYS. I read that book a few times, but I'm not for sure how the effort Mr. Ajit has done in that. And he's the last one, but not the least, passionate about machine learning and spends 3+ hours a day writing codes in Python and R language. So that, in fact, is the biggest brainer that defies how good he's a learner at this rate. So over to you, for the benefit of the audience. Here, Mr. Ajit Balakrishnan is before you. Over to you, sir. The next 1 hour or so, and then we can have a Q&A at the end. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. I have about 15 slides to show, and after that we'll have Q&A. Let me first share my slides. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
You
Yes. Yeah.
You can see me in an attire on this. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You can hear my voice?
Go to the PowerPoint. Yeah. Now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. The person portrayed there is me, myself, looking like a caveman, okay? So there is so much technical excitement going on. We're all wondering what is the bigger meaning of all this. I spend many hours a day for the last 2, 3, 4 years figuring out what is the crucial bits of it. So this is a little bit of transfer of my learning. I hope to learn even more from the audience today as I go through my slides, and at the end of the day, at the end of the presentation, I'm sure you will have questions to ask. The first the first thing you must remember is that the humanity has seen other technical revolutions in the past, and it's briefly worth understanding what happens during each. Of course, you remember the first industrial revolution, textiles and steam, and the factory system in the early 1800s, which made affordable clothing, which was that people could use clothing because it was cheap enough. But it also brought child labor and urban life. And this is a factor you'll find in any kind of technical revolution. Then came the era of steel, rail, and ships, which meant affordable transport worldwide. It opened up world trade and urbanization, but it also opened up slave trade and colonialism. And then electricity, auto, petrochemical, particularly synthetic chemistry revolution, brought things like nylon, polyester, polypropylene, affordable pharma, affordable fertilizers, but it also led to, for example, I'll speak about it later again, about the Bombay textile industry, which is focused on cotton, completely collapsed. Okay, and the Bengal jute industry, I've done a deep study of this. Everyone blames all kinds of other things. The core of it is when jute was replaced by synthetic fiber, it denuded that entire area of Naxalbari, and that led to what is called Naxalism. Today, the computer and internet revolution is working. It first worked its way through media, and provided, on the one hand, very easy to read things on the internet, sharing, etc., etc. But at the start, has kind of destroyed the print magazine and print newspaper industry and the cinema industry almost completely. So there are pluses and minuses to each one of these technical revolutions. And I urge everyone here to make sure that we capitalize on the presses and find ways to eliminate the minuses. Okay. Now, there are 3 types of disruptions underway during the current internet and information revolution. One is dematerialization, which really means that you print, paper, plastic film is disappearing in all aspects of our life, and it's being replaced by digital data. So newspapers, magazines, printing presses, not to mention checkbooks, are all disappearing one by one. Okay, disintermediation, which is when layers of distribution chains disappear. For example, today many e-commerce companies buy directly from a Chinese supplier and ship it directly to a consumer. And the whole layer of distribution chains, wholesalers, distributors, retailers, etc., are starting to disappear across many industries. These already happened in the media industry. That no longer do you have space salesmen and things, advertising salesmen, etc., etc. You go and directly work on programmatic platforms. And finally, we also are starting to see disaggregation, which were the conglomerate type things. For example, within the financial area, it used to be all handled by one entity. Now it is becoming lending apps and payment apps and all kinds of other things. So you must watch out for these three movements: dematerialization, disintermediation, disaggregation. And I could recite chapter and verse how it has already affected media. It is currently underway in the financial sector, and it will soon attack the legal system and as well as the medical system. So I think it's very important to see the effect and capitalize on it and not just lie back and suffer from it. Now, what are the various tech waves underway? Now, thanks to COVID, the home movement, work from home movement has started accelerating. It was underway before COVID, but it has accelerated it, and it really means that in certain professions like computer use is very high, and interacting with the public is not that important. They are the ones who are currently immediately switching to it. Business, computer science, engineering, finance management, etc. Now, on the other extreme, where things require interacting with the public, but not much computer use. Okay, what happened? There is a echo. Okay, in retail, food services. But it's very important to understand that the work from home movement, based on which huge skyscrapers are built in all metro cities, including Bombay and Calcutta and Delhi and Bangalore, that era is starting to fade away. So what it will bring, what impact it will have on real estate is something that we need to really think about. But more importantly, we have to, inside the banking BFSI sector, we have to plan it in a way that we anticipate that less than 10% or 15% of the workforce will be in office and the majority will work from home. How to put in digital systems, how to make sure security is not compromised, how do you make sure people rigorously work and don't sleep in the job. These are challenges to everything, but it's best to know where it's coming. The second is that there is a movement towards the cloud, which really means that instead of having servers and all kinds of EDP things inside an office, we move to, at the moment, there are three dominant cloud service providers: Amazon, AWS, Google Colab, and Microsoft Azure. So practically everything is moving there, and we just need a small PC at your home or office to work on the rest of it. So many such cloud services are underway. The three that I named are the ones who are early movers, but there are many others as well. So you're having a whole EDP department in the office managing all of this is now, over the next 5-7 years, also will have a challenging existence. Okay. Well, still other, which is very exciting. We are using it ourselves in our business. There is a use of chatbots to take over sales and customer service. And if you do it intelligently, it really means that a bank or a financial institution can provide 24 hours, almost faultless customer service. Now, there's a lot of thinking and algorithms and things which have already been built to work it. I also personally experiment with quite a lot of this, but I think it can be, it's a great way to improve customer service. You don't need to have thousands of people, and you find them very difficult to explain all the complexities of investment management and so on. And these things can be done and make sure that you improve your customer service in a very major way. And the one which is at the moment under great debate, but I have studied this very thoroughly and infected the code. And guys, believe me, blockchain. I think the blockchain movement will come and revolutionize our work and personal life in a way that if you are from the computer science background, there's something called TCP/IP, which got invented in the mid-80s, which led to the internet. Okay. Now, blockchain is a distributed ledger with decentralized verification and computation that will take away all the pressure to have centralized organizations and centralized system. Unfortunately, most of the blockchain thing got overshadowed by the very first invention based on it, which is Bitcoin, and consequently people have started becoming suspicious of blockchain. Don't mix the two. Bitcoin is just one invention which is capitalizing on blockchain. Like, for example, porn sites are a part of one group which is trying to capitalize on the World Wide Web. So it doesn't need to be. The World Wide Web has some excellent beneficial things. Similarly, blockchain has excellent things which opens for mankind. And just because it is so controversial, I have dug up this two very good readings. One is from the Harvard Business Review. It's available freely, The Truth About Blockchain, and one from the World Economic Forum on realizing the potential of blockchain. I've listed the full URLs there because I'm sure many of you would love to catch up and read. Both are freely available to download. So this is a kind of a not fully updated, but the kind of ecosystem chart which these people, these groups of people, the digital fifth people are very, very good at creating these ecosystem charts. So it is not fully up to date, but you can see the kind of action which is going on in the fintech system. There are data providers to the left, the banking data, credit bureaus, alternative credit platforms. There are consumer intents, as you can see, Amazon, Flipkart, Byju's, etc. There are personal who are all venturing into all kinds of financial transactions. There are personal loan apps. There are salary loan apps, education loan, gold loan, pay later, e-commerce, consumer finance, P2P lending, cards. I mean, the list is massive. So all kinds of very exciting things are going on. And if you are a bank like State Bank or Karnataka, look clear to see which of these you should take seriously and make sure that you are covered, so that your business doesn't get imploded by the actions of many of these schemes. But this is the ecosystem, and it is not even full. I think I've represented, or the people who created this chart has represented about 30% of all the action which is going on. There's enormous amount of action and very exciting action going on. Now, this looks like a very gloomy chart, but what it is when I first came to Bombay after I graduated from IIM Calcutta and took the third class train to come and land here to see my future fortune, Bombay had 120 or so textile mills along Parel, and they were booming. And suddenly from the late, I came here in 71, sometime in the mid-70s, they started collapsing. What happened is everyone blamed strikes, Datta Saman strike, etc., etc. And this is this is a picture of a beautiful old mill, which what remains of it is only this like a gloomy forest. What happened, and everyone blames labor for it. No, the real issue, and it took me also a lot of research to dig it up, is that these were all cotton textile mills. And when nylon appeared and polyester appeared, all of us, people like me who are now 21, 22-year-olds, would not be seen dressed in cotton. We think that my eldest sister refused to go to college, telling my parents, "You're making me wear cotton," where all the fashionable girls are all wearing saris made of nylon and polyester. So we were all enamored with this nylon and polyester. All the mills collapsed. There was a massive strike, etc., etc. Everyone at that time blamed it on poor Datta Samant and saying, he's supporting the workers on strike. It is true, when nylon and things dominated them, they couldn't get sales anymore, so they couldn't pay salaries to the workers, and obviously workers go on strike. So it is very important to keep up with the pace of changing technology and to not sit and blame other people for doing it. Top management must take responsibility and make sure that this technology which is underway today in banking particularly is fully embraced. Also, while you're looking at it, a little bit of caution, since I keep saying to everyone 3, 4, 5 hours a day I'm coding. One of the what is seen to be a miraculous breakthrough is something called the word-to-vec algorithm. It's not that complicated. If I sit in a class, I'll teach all of you to be quite expert in within a max of 45 minutes. It allowed people, all of us, to do with words what we could earlier do with numbers. For example, earlier we could do a number 6 minus 4 equal to 2. Now, this algorithm allowed that computation, arithmetical computations, to be done on words. And the most classic example which the inventor showed was you take the word king and put the minus sign on man and put a plus sign and say woman, it spits out the answer queen. And it does it through these vectors. Okay, but as it's caution, it is a caution. It sounds like absolutely miracle. But what happens is this kind of learning is based on going through all of Wikipedia and plotting all the relationships of words with each other. So when somebody tried doctor minus man plus woman, it doesn't say lady doctor, it says nurse. So this shows the kind of biases which can be built into these wonderful algorithms simply because it's based on data of the past. The doctor minus plan for woman would be nurse, and lady doctors are only a very small proportion of the total. So this full paper I have referenced here, you must read it because it's very important. At the same time, word2vec is a breakthrough algorithm. It is almost like the caveman looking at a computer. It's wonder you wonder. I keep sitting at it and watching it and say, my God, what brain power these guys needed to come up with this. Okay, but watch out for biases which get into the data. The data might have, for example, in the very famous credit lending, you can be a very conscientious worker, rather salaried employee, but if you live in an area which is known for defaulting on loans, the banking algorithms in New York classified such people as not lendable. And so because they have got the location where they live, the algorithm associated everyone with a bad credit. So there are these biases built into what looks like very objective mathematical things. So I urge you to study that aspect of it as well. Now, we've been fighting these battles, and you can see Reliefcom was founded in the mid-95 period on a 500 square feet office in the Fort area in Bombay. And we were there together with Lycos and eBay and etc. Well before Facebook was founded, about 8 years after us, and so on and so forth. So and Google themselves were founded about 3 years after us. A lot of people told me to switch to America, go and live there and build your business. But I'm a kind of old-style nationalistic Indian. We want Indian companies to succeed, and we are doing that. And we've said and we know the market in India is very small, and early adopter markets are particularly small. Adoption of technology in India is very slow, but we stayed there. And for example, one of our successes is we ensured, and this is that we built our own infrastructure to provide, our key businesses, Reliefmail Enterprise, where we provide enterprise email and collaboration services, including instant messengers and an Indian version of WhatsApp, etc. But we had made sure that we had to build it on the ground to connect all the Indian ISP providers and so on. This is a very brief look at it. And to make sure that the data dealing with this does not even for a second go out of India. Okay, so all your data, we keep all our email data in India, not even outside. All kinds of complicated games are going out in the outside world of tapping, etc. So we built this from scratch, completely Indian, with no foreign collaboration, all that. We all sat and wrote the code ourselves and tested it. Many of the bigger banks will have to do things similar to this. You have to make sure that particularly State Bank, which is a leading bank, and India can't afford to have anything go wrong with State Bank, needs to create an infrastructure which, they don't need to do it in-house, but you can go it through a number of outside people, but at the same time, this is how you build a cloud infrastructure. These tech battles are worth fighting, for example, these are the kind of people who we serve, HDFC, Ergo, and Tata, PNB, MetLife, etc. All their email, we have something like 25,000 customers. And so I'm quoting this not to brag about Relief.com, but as much as to show that all the theories that I've been propounding are based on the fact that, we have built and maintained systems for many of these people, which includes a very large number of, non-banking financial companies who have salesmen of 5,000, 10,000 salesmen, and they need to give them each an email and a messenger system and which must be secure, that they can't send things to their friends, but any confidential stuff is monitored by somebody in head office and all that. It can be done, but that's why I have this thing. Must also learn, and this is something I want all of you to deeply, deeply remember. All of deep learning and all the artificial intelligence is based on something called linear algebra. I'm sure many of you have learned linear algebra in school and didn't take it that seriously. Now, what will I do with this? Now, if you have time, go and read this Wikipedia entry on the Bakshali manuscript. Now, linear algebra was invented in India. It was about in the AD 2000, AD 200 or thereabouts. And this Bakshali manuscript was dug up in the mid 80s from somewhere which displays all the linear algebra methods. Now, today, what you call deep learning is 95% linear algebra. It is using technology which was invented in 1,000 plus years ago. So this is worth reading, and if any of you are interested, I can take a 45-minute, 1-hour session on what all these people did. At the moment, it is in Pakistan, but it is part of the original India. And the Wikipedia is a good place. So please remember that Indians intuitively should understand linear algebra. It was invented here, and linear algebra is the basis of everything that Google and Microsoft and all the other champions do. What is called artificial intelligence and deep learning, it is 99.99% it depends on linear algebra. Okay, so you should find it easy. It should come to you naturally as an Indian. Here are a few recommended books that I have a big list, but I reduced it to just 5 or 6 here. Something called the platform revolution, because I think you have to think of State Bank and each of your bank as a platform. That's very important. The concept of a platform is new. The deep learning, this is thinking for a platform is a very, very critical part of it. You think of Amazon as a platform, Google as a search platform, State Bank of India, Karnataka Bank, each of a bank needs to have their own platforms based on the cloud. For those of whom who get scared about things like deep learning and Scratch, etc., I suggest a book by Mr. Weidman. It is very easy to read, and it tells you the concept without diving too much into code. There's an Indian who's written a pretty decent book about fintech's future, pretty decent. Sanjay Phadke, it's worth reading. And since a lot of it is the innovation which is going on, there's a recent book by Mr. Lazaro, who has looked at worldwide innovation, and my American friends have a habit of glorifying Silicon Valley, etc. I've lived there too for a brief 1 or 2 years, but I think global entrepreneurs are now making waves about all of this. And the last one is a shameless promotion of my own book, The Wave Rider, which I've written 10 years ago, actually. I'm writing a book on innovation, which has a lot of Indian cases in it. I have finished the first draft, and every day the publisher chases me saying, Ajit, when are you going to give it? Hopefully in the next 6 months I will finish this. Yeah? Okay, I'm done. Hello?
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ajit, for taking us through the way how you have seen through the entire spectrum of changes with technology.
Okay.
Now there is at the time of registration itself, we have taken a lot of questions, and I thought I will flag off a few so that we will get more and more of questions. And I would also request participants to using the chat boxes and perhaps by by unmuting. You can also ask questions. I think there is a small power issue there. Maybe my session is slightly dark. Please bear with that. And the first question goes something like this. At a time, to further the artificial intelligence and machine learning foray, what is that bank's, how far tie-ups with fintechs help banks?
I'm sorry, not clear. Voice is this.
Yeah.
Voice has been.
The question is, am I audible now?
You're audible. Words are getting broken up, Krishna.
Okay. I'll tell again. The question is, to further the foray into artificial intelligence and machine learning, how can banks tie up with fintech?
I think one way is to tie up or buy and buy out startup entrepreneurs. But the only catch is that at the moment there's such a fever that the VCs will make you pay a price which you will find difficult to justify to your board, particularly nationalized banks, etc. It's madness. And 8 out of 10 fail. And when it fails, we don't want you don't the CBI inquiry started after the poor man who takes a risk. I know this Indian system too well. But I would suggest that my acquaintances with the young SBI officers allow some of them internally to experiment. Allow them to experiment and then get all of people like me. There are thousands like me who are just external advisors who don't charge any money but want this to succeed. So there are many like this. I can introduce you to lots of Indian, national-oriented Indians who have the knowledge, but who just can be on an advisory board to help these people. But I think allow your young officers with backgrounds, like all of you have excellent backgrounds. I've seen many of them through my last 40 years of living in Bombay. Experiment inside and allow them to fail. Don't penalize them if somebody fails, So I think build the culture inside. My dreams would be to see people like State Bank of India, which is, I can see the State Bank office out of my window here. I'm in Colaba, so I can see. I think you're right to create an experimentation cell and you have people from IIT backgrounds and all kinds. You have no shortage of talent, I can tell you. But pick people in their 20s and 30s and experiment and see something big will come out of them. Yeah. Yeah.
And some more questions. I find a lot of chat box questions also. We'll take some chat box as well. There is one question from Mr. Ramesh. Data being most critical in ML and AI. Also, the quality of data is still a challenge as far as the banking is concerned. What is your opinion and the way forward?
Just repeat that. The words got jumbled.
The gentleman is asking the data being the most critical in ML and AI.
Yeah.
There is a quality of data issue also in banking. What is your opinion and the way forward? I guess the particular person was questioned. If you go and backtrack how banking, especially the core banking and all evolved, a lot of core banking data at the time when it went in wasn't that good in terms of data quality. So we are still struggling those legacy issues. So perhaps he's trying to understand.
Having been part of several government committees to study some of these, I can vouchsafe that banking in India has the best data any other industry has, because everything customer does is tracked. You go to an auto industry and so on, there's no data, they make up things. So I think assure yourself that banking has data. Now, data preparation in machine learning and artificial intelligence is a big challenge. It's a big challenge everywhere in the world. I mean, the joke among all of us data scientists is that if you ask any of us, where is the effort in machine learning? We'll say that 95% is in data preparation and 4% effort is spent in complaining about data preparation. And only 1% is effort actually put into doing. So banking has extraordinary data, extraordinary. And I think, don't think the data is bad. All data is bad. At least the banking data from, at least I'm sure the nationalized banks are all ethically maintained. I'm sure there are gaps in it. I'm sure some years is missing it. But any form of machine learning, data preparation is 90% or 95% of the game. So don't spend too much on the other 4% of complaining about the data preparation. Go straight to the final step, which is creating algorithms.
There is another beautiful question I see at the time of registration this gentleman has asked. He says, How do we make the present management appreciate?
Sorry, you went silent.
Yes.
So say that again.
Yeah. How do we make the present management in BFSI sector appreciate the utility of AI and ML?
I think it's something which can't like events like this, for example, will seed some thoughts into some people. As usual, out of 100 people who you propose ideas to, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 will take it and run with it. That should be seen as success. So I think doing more of what you're doing today, where you have open discussions with a variety of people who show experiments, however they've done it, more hands-on versions of what I've shown today. Today I've maintained things at the policy level to give you a high-level overview and then spend too much time on algorithms. But we can find people who can do that for you. And I think creating a leadership award inside each region of a bank, saying the Western region best contributor to machine learning this year, and make a hero out of the work that this kid has done. And these are, and it's very important now. A word or two of caution: don't look for highly, only IIT and IIM guys to do it. Inside Reliefcom, where we hire completely on objective thing. One of the most talented people in my company is a woman who's in her 30s, who female, computer scientist, who does not speak one word of English. And I, as you know, the founder, is grown up in Malabar, so I barely speak Hindi. So you should see the two of us talk. But at the same time, we have 1 hour conversation every day because she's doing some critical work. And I need to, I'm a hands-on founder, CEO, wants to hear what's going on. But we communicate through algorithms. So, when you pick people to succeed, they can come from backgrounds which are not English speaking, and they need not necessarily be from IITs and IIMs. There's an immense amount of talent in India. I think be objective about it and give them the scope to experiment and define some problems, particularly machine learning type problems. For example, develop an algorithm to predict failure of bank loans given to, I don't know, Kolivara. I'm just making up a story. For any region or type of customer, or develop an algorithm showing payback, the bad loan occurrence and how to avoid it when you lend to taxi drivers. Or again, I'm making up all these things. I'm sure you have better problem. So I think open it as a contest internally, and they will come, and allow them freedom to collaborate with places like IIT Bombay. I go very often and have similar discussion. But for their side, that some absolute geniuses living there in Powai, IIT Bombay. Their problem is, Ajit sir, try and connect us to a bank which will work with us and give us data. They don't have data. You guys have data, and they have all the algorithms, and they're, sometimes tying up with those guys can really help. Really help.
Just a corollary question also I noticed. One gentleman is asking, sir, can you cite more use cases of AI and ML in NPA management and in retail banking?
What is FTA? I'm sorry?
NPA is a non-performance asset.
A non-performing. Oh God, if you go to Google search and say NPA management machine learning, you'll get about 20,000 answers. Because it's a very, very hot subject I think. I don't know, I've not worked inside a bank, and I've never taken loans and others, so I don't know what default is. But nonetheless, I can understand. So there is the literature, the scholarly literature, tons and tons of it. Every kind of algorithm I've seen used there. It's one of the hottest areas for doing research, because every bank has a problem. When I lend this guy who's sitting in front of me, will he return? What is the data I ask him? So there is lots and lots of cases. If you're particularly keen, send a message to me, and I will make sure I'll give you a list for about 5,000 articles on any of this. That's a hot area, and it's difficult because separating out the true reasons why somebody doesn't pay up. Is it his race or color? In America, they're prejudiced against color, but or is it that very often the two are correlated, poverty and color, etc., etc. So there are issues there, but journals are plenty of articles. There is a online journal called Medium, Medium, which contains. And I spend 2 hours a day every day on Medium. I think it's based somewhere in America, but I think 80% of the writers are Indians. Yeah? So the young Indians who are in their 20s and 30s are contributing various algorithms and discussing it. And all my friends and my wife, they're shocked. They think there's nothing better to do than reading algorithms late in the night. But I find it very exciting. So, yeah. But I think Medium is a good place to go and see many cases. Okay, but generally search for it, and you'll find both scholarly articles from the IITs, IIMs, and Harvard, etc., and also from many young people who are putting up examples of data sets. There is a site called Kaggle, Kaggle, and Kaggle is a great place to do. Kaggle is a place where you have contests. Okay, they provide a data set and you can join in and compete, and if they rank you. And many of the Kaggle contests have something to do in the financial tech. Very often about detecting loan. They provide a data set and say who can predict, show the algorithm which can predict, and they give you a price of $10,000 or $20,000 for the best algorithm which gives the best accuracy. So Kaggle is a great place to go.
I see one in the chat box also asked by one Mr. Trivikrama. Yeah, he's asking AML requests data, and there's available a lot of data outside, not within the bank. How banks can procure the data from external service providers like Google, Facebook without violating the stringent data privacy laws?
Okay. Okay. First of all, at the risk of repeating myself, I think banks have huge amounts of data. They're not figured out how to organize it and keep it and store it. Data privacy is something I know about. I've been in several government committees. You have to make that privacy means that you have to anonymize that data. Now, the specific user should not be traceable. And anonymization is a chapter by itself. Guys, again, search in Google or on Flipkart, any of the book sites, and you will get tons of books on how to anonymize. There are scientific ways to anonymize the data, and then you can release it to the public, and they can all participate in a contest. So the data will never be traced back to an individual. Okay, so I think there are anonymization methods. I think after hearing all this, I feel inclined to offering my free service to help you collect data within banks itself. There are tons and tons of data you have. But the figure is how to anonymize it, so it doesn't reveal the confidence that customers have placed with you. And once it's anonymized, nobody can trace back. It's impossible. The magic word is anonymize.
So there's one more question who's asking, slightly a question, he's asking, Mr. Anurag Nath, traditional banks like ours have major presence in rural economy. How do we use AI/ML to provide services at par with urban customers, improve profitability while fulfilling social objectives?
Yeah, I think that again, with my restricted knowledge of banking, rural or urban, particularly urban, I'm sure your main result tools that you can. One is getting algorithms to predict whether a person will pay or not. That is one we spoke about. But the other is go out and find out who to market your loans to. So, okay, there is lots of data available in India from the census. So if you're in I think, let's say rural Karnataka, the southern part of Karnataka, census is enough data. So you can locate the villages where there is a high potential for people wanting loans at the same time having the ability to repay, to one. Or you can market credit cards if that's one of your goals, for example. and it will soon be, because you need something to combat the digitization which is taking away all your customers. You could put using machine learning to target the right customer and send the right direct mail to them. And the direct mail can be email, but if the person is semi-literate, you can send voice-based things. Today, things like WhatsApp are being used by semi-literate people all over. There are things like WhatsApp and plenty of others like them. And you can do direct marketing to invite them to come to you. In marketing is one of the areas where machine learning and AI is used quite a lot, because of 100 potential customers, who is more likely to buy your service, and out of that 10 or 12 you isolate who will pay for it and stay with you, and who are the other guys who just buy today and drop you tomorrow. These kind of segmentation can be done very, very well and easily. There's again books on market segmentation will teach you how to do this. I think the rural area is a wonderful place to do this. Wonderful place.
Thank you. There's one more question in the chat box by Mr. Raman Bennett. He's asking, is bot chat service better than human-based customer care service? Chatbot.
It is. I know chatbot. It is like saying, there's such a question I believe my grandfather used to tell me. Is walking to a place better than riding it in a car? It depends on how far you're going and how often you have to go. So that's my grandfather had one of the first cars in a small town called Kannur in Kerala. And people used to ask him, Doctor, why are you having a car? Can't you just walk? So it is similar to that chatbot. Now, there are many repetitive queries, and typically if you put a human customer service rep for that, there's a limit to how much they can take of this nonsense. The same question being answered many times. So I think chatbots which are text-based, and there are now chatbots which are voice-based, which gives you correct voice answers. It allows you to scale tremendously. If you have to train these people, human beings, and then keep them and maintain them and prevent them from being switching jobs and starting training again, there are things you can do, particularly for complex queries. Very complex queries. And one of the cutting edge areas in computer science today is how to take a lot of data. If you give me, for example, State Bank of India, Nariman Point retail office, 5,000 questions which have come and the right answer, I can within 15 minutes write an algorithm and tell you and design a chatbot to answer those questions. 15 to 20 minutes is all it takes. Next time somebody calls, put the chatbot in and it'll provide. We have to work on whether you want to put a Maharashtrian Marathi accent or a South Indian accent or a BBC accent. Those are details. But you can even define that as well. So it reduces the fatigue of many of the customer service people. Secondly, it can be through, there's no working hour limitation for them. Now, many of us want to talk to a banker, but then it is 8 o'clock. That's the only time I have to talk to anybody. But during the day, I'm also running around. You call and they say, oh, this is closed. So chatbots have that thing, and you can make them very pleasant and, we designed a chatbot inside Reliefcom, and we call it Vedika. And we're trying to make Vedika sound as sweet and understanding as a young Indian girl would, and not say, God, come corner, you don't understand why you're asking stupid questions, no, you can't let the Vedika will very sweetly listen to everything that you ask. Okay?
Thank you. And there is this question which says, how are organizations going to cope up with disruption posed by emerging technologies at such an accelerated pace? And how will smaller organizations adopt AI and ML and be agile?
And can you just repeat that again once, if you don't mind, the question?
Yeah. This gentleman is asking, how are organizations going to cope with disruption posed by emerging technologies like AL and ML and AI, the two at an accelerated pace, what will make smaller organizations agile?
I think let's take the smaller organizations first, because you may find you're at least now we're talking the banking sector, and people are not that small in banking. You know, I know some of these NBFCs, so they are maybe relatively small, but everyone around this table today is not dealing with that smallness. But what is important is hire bright people and let them innovate. And most innovation happens when people are in their late 20s, early 30s. Just make sure that they're given freedom to innovate. And top management, people of our age group, define challenging problems, and then help them innovate and be forgiving when they make mistakes. It does not matter. And the coding part of all that is very, very simple. Today, you can go to, for example, there's Amazon has a service called AWS, which is a cloud service. You go there, if you know a little bit of statistics, you can point and click, and the algorithm gets written for you. It point and click. You don't need to write a single line of code. For example, if you want to do a technique called logistic regression on data to see what are the weighted attributes which makes a person repay the loan, and what makes them abandon the loan, and you have, let's say, 10,000 items, and each has 100 variables. You enter it into Amazon AWS and say, give me a logarithmic regression, and it prints it out in seconds. You don't have to write any code. It works like Excel. Before Excel and Word came, we all had to write things on our own and compute and all that. Today, you put 2-3 formulas in Excel and you get. So all of them, the world leaders are all trying to make deep learning and machine learning work exactly like Excel. You put in the data, import the data, point and click here and there. And that's a race to get those tools ready. People are working 24 hours a day. So that's you can go and experiment. Both Google and Amazon, the basic tier is free. So all these kids in the audience, you don't need to spend any money of yourself. You just go and get a free account and experiment a little bit there.
There is, as a kind of a corollary, talking about credit engines and things like that, especially when we talk about predictive models of AI. Apart from the data that is available within a bank or within the kind of the ecosystem, how can data in the social media be used to predict, many of these defaults, or to even entice a new customer, or to cross-sell to a new customer? And what are the technologies being used?
Yes, I think the broad headwork, the subject is called text processing, how to make sense of text. Now again, I would invite the person who asked the question to go to Kaggle, Kaggle.com, and they have many contests which are based on exactly this. They give you social media data, and they're very generous. When they say social media data, there will be 5 million rows of postings that have been done on, for example, Facebook. They anonymize the people's names and age, etc., but allows you, and then pose a problem to predict who's likely to be a Republican, who's likely to be a Democrat, or any such classification. This is the American classification. And the data you can download for free and play around and examine that. Okay, so the Kaggle is a place to go. Kaggle has got plenty of data. And when you search for Kaggle, there are 5-10 Kaggle competitors who are rising. Their names will also come next to it. I think in India, there's a company in Delhi which is making, Delhi, Gurgaon area, there are 2 or 3 companies making, whose sites I go to. Analytics India is one, and they have a very, very, they're not as big as Kaggle, but they have lots of Indian data, and they put, that. And then there is Geeks for Geeks, GEEKS, Geeks for Geeks. Incidentally, I'm teased by all my friends who call me, hey, here comes Ajit the geek. So, and I'm told in my office behind my back, all these kids say, there is Geek Sir is coming, watch out, watch out. Anyway, so I think Geeks for Geeks also is an Indian site which contains lots and lots of data and challenges. I encourage all of you to jump into those challenges and try and see, because by playing with it at no cost, you will get to master the game. That's the only way. That's the only way.
There is another question. How to popularize the importance of banking services using artificial intelligence and machine learning to the common public who are resistant to change now? There are still few customers who want personalized human service.
See, don't think, again, I'll question the assumption that customers are not ready to change. If you take today's 19, 17, 19, 18, 20, up to 30-year-olds, they are much more experimental than people like us were at that stage of life. Because they've simply learned more. The internet, we didn't have the internet to learn from. Okay, today any kid can, whether you live in a slum, you can get onto the free internet and play around and learn whatever you want. Okay, so there is plenty of learning opportunities inside there. And I'd say again, there are many ideas on where you can use it. Typically, the first use of artificial intelligence and machine learning came from the marketing area because the internet first penetrated media. It was Google and all of them get most of the revenue from advertising. So there's most of the early algorithms are all predicting what people will do, convincing them to buy your product, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there are even experiments going on how to create videos through AI. There's some experiments which are going on. Again, thanks to the internet, it's available for free for you to experiment and see that. But I think the subject of using machine learning and AI for marketing, you are overburdened with too much material. Much less so is on things like realistic data on loan at the corporate level, loan not being repaid. Corporate level data is a lot less because people are worried about disclosing anything there. But I'm sure within your own banks you can create the data. It is not just make sure you anonymize it. That is all. And there are buy a textbook on anonymization and do it. You have plenty of data within yourselves. Okay.
Sir, talking about the blockchain, you made a presentation. Yeah. As we all know that the blockchain is a kind of an ecosystem driven thing. We have the public blockchain as well as the private blockchain. Now, talking about blockchain and its impact that we need to do as far as the BFSI sector is concerned, how can an ecosystem be created? We also talk about, just like fintech, we also talk about regtech. The regulator also coming on board and doing whatever possible to facilitate it and so on. And the ecosystem development for the blockchain to sort of permeate and be a major thing, be it on say land records registration or any other clearance function or even say trade finance. So everywhere you have intermediaries of all nature, advising bank, negotiating bank, and every other bank coming. But the larger ecosystem, even if you look at our own UPI, the larger ecosystem was created by IDRBT and, at the behest of RBI. So how to do this ecosystem creation as far as the, blockchain development is concerned, especially in a country like India?
I think what you can try is one of the suggestions I hinted at, which is define a problem, provide some anonymized data, and invite, for example, all students at IIT Bombay, I'm just giving one example, to contest and give prizes of 10,000 rupees first prize, 5,000 rupees second prize, or announce it to all engineering or all students in India they will come up with the answers. Don't worry. The amount of thinking power inside today's 20, 25-year-olds is incredible. Incredible. Okay, and I've worked very closely with them during the 10 years at IIMs, and I used to spend a lot of time in class listening to them, not just IIM Calcutta, but all over. And I also worked, I didn't mention it in my bio, but I've worked with the Ministry of Education on helping the polytechnics in Eastern India improve their curriculum in Eastern India. And every weekend, I used to fly Thursday to Assam or Meghalaya and come back by Sunday night, spending time only with these polytechnics. Okay, and I was part of the Ministry of Education project, and you should see the kind of thinking power that polytechnics in Mizoram have. You know, I talk to these kids who they barely speak English. They all look like Chinese kids, you know, and they asked you, "Are you from India?" I said, "Yeah." It's sort of asking which country is India, you know. So, but I used to love. I'd spend 3-4 hours every morning on the board defining the problem. They will go and solve it in mathematical problems in 10 seconds flat. Very bright children inside polytechnics in India. They're being of all middle class people, they say, oh, polytechnic is the guy who's a loser. You know, if he was any good, he would be in an IIT or an IIM. Not true. There's some, you know, I needed a father as a doctor and grandfather as a doctor to give me peace of time to go and study. As my friend Smriti Irani, when she was a education minister, once told me, Ajit, you should not be proud of the fact that you're a topper at IIM. You didn't have to come home at 4 o'clock and go to milk the cows, right? I said, no. And you didn't have to, after that, go to the father's shop and sit there till 10 o'clock at night. I said, no. So then said, what is the problem? You will succeed, right? I told her, yeah. I nearly touched her feet after she said, it is correct, right? Absolutely correct. So there are some very, very bright people in polytechnics in India. Very, very bright. And they're again from all over the country, wherever, you know, which doesn't matter which part of India they come from, you know. So I'll post them these problems. I wish State Bank would take the lead and say, here are these, every month we are posting a problem in either blockchain or something. Here is the anonymized data. These are the prices. That will cost so much excitement in India. Oh God, we'll all love you for that.
Thank you for that suggestion. I'm sure all the bankers are listening to that.
Yeah. There's so many bright people inside banks. Yeah, that's right. I'm suggesting it. All of you are very bright guys to start with, you know. Yeah, okay.
There is one more question I see in the chat box. Mr. Rohan Sinha. Sir, how to make sure model doesn't overfit and old biases against a group present in a society? How would even evaluate for noise considering it would be widespread?
Very valid question. I had, it's a very wise and valid question. I had hinted that in one of my slides, about the, man plus doctor minus woman equal to nurse. That's because the reason why these things happen is Word2Vec uses data such as all of Wikipedia, the entire 25 years of Wikipedia, billions of words. But inside the data, already biases exist. No? That's how, historically that algorithm looks and finds that most often man plus doctor minus man plus woman. It'll say nurse is what the data says it is nurse. So biases exist in data. Now, there's a whole subject on what are these biases? Are they, at the moment, in America, they're very preoccupied by looking at biases like, what is that, anti-female bias, anti-color bias. These are the two big topics for them. In India, we have our own lot of biases. I don't know whether it's the caste system bias or what it, God knows. People from one part of India bias, I don't know. So it's a subject by itself. Because very often, practically all of machine learning and all of artificial intelligence looks at data to detect patterns. And if that pattern of biases existed in your past data, then without it will come into the next one. Okay, so that's a mega challenge, and all of us who are workers in that area keep figuring out how to detect these biases when they exist. It is not easy. It is not easy. Okay, so it's an open subject, and if you can quickly find an answer, you'll get a Nobel Prize next year, for sure. It's that hot.
So that completely.
Yeah, it's hot
I
subject.
see one more question asked by Mr. JNR. What are the data bias and impact in BFSI? I think just now you have answered, so I'm not again plugging to you. There is one more question. So Vijay, thank you for the inputs. How will AI and ML affect the service
I'm sorry.
charges in bank?
I'm sorry.
How will it affect service charges in bank? Will it be benefit small entrepreneurs and will it be sustainable for banks to use technology? Will it cost more on a day-to-day basis to the banks? I mean, the people who are using these services.
Okay, one of the challenges, is a very valid and very important question. Generally, technology from the time of the industrial revolution of the 19th century, it gets focused on making it cheaper to do something, generally, okay? For example, when somebody invented the loom, automatic loom, it meant that you could do output much faster with the same number of 5 or 10 people. So generally, since then, the technology's focus has been to replace repetitive work with things, and to that extent, in the short run, always there are. Even in the 1880s, there were strikes saying that no, you're depriving us of a job. Karl Marx and his friend Engels went to Manchester, lived there for 1 year to discover the problems, and that is how he thought of the whole concept of Marxism. You remember that? So yes, the purpose of practically all the effort of AI and machine learning in the fintech sector is to reduce the transaction costs. Okay, the purpose is to, instead of employing people who will cost money and make mistakes, etc., you devise an algorithm which will do it for you almost free. So it will result in more affordable services. And please don't fight it just because, similarly in Manchester, they've made clothes more affordable. Many people who could never wear clothes or afford to wear clothes, were able to afford clothes. The banking will become affordable. Your interest rate that you charge may, I don't know, for very 100 other reasons, may go down to 2.5%. Like in the United States, you can borrow at 1.5% or 2%. In that era, how do you do business? You can't have an elaborate human interaction to it. So I think the goal of practically all of technology in any field is to reduce transaction costs. So you will get a better margin. And also to aim it at the target deep learning to write the right customers who will pay back in time. So that improves your margin again. Okay, or find you new customers who you had not thought of you before. So that will increase your volume. So technology is aimed at that, but there will also be the side effects of, if you act too slow, then you will get, I showed you that grim picture of the Bombay Textile Mills. Now keep that in your mind. So make sure you act fast and do things quickly.
Thank you, sir. There is one, I think, question from transformation cell of some bank, maybe Karnataka Bank. They're asking, sir, you cautioned on mind-blowing breakthrough techs. Do you consider AI and ML a disruptive innovation or a radical innovation? If disruptive
Okay.
innovation, and what systems become redundant?
No, well, the term radical is relative. Relative. I think if you don't know how to add 2 plus 2 and you learn how to do it, that's very radical. You don't know the answer is 4. But once you learn that, you think, oh God, what shit here? Nothing. So that's a relative term. So be careful. And the term machine learning and AI and deep learning, there are 3 terms that you will find, have various intersections, which some are saying of the same thing. The definitions have not been hammered down, but typically people inside the trade, like I almost never use the word artificial intelligence. I think it's an exaggeration. That someday maybe we'll get it 10, 20 years from now. What we're doing today should best be called deep learning or machine learning. Some people to hype it up call it artificial intelligence. So I think remember that. In machine learning, things you can make repetitive tasks easy to do. Okay, and you can detect patterns very much faster and easier. The pattern detection is everything about intelligence. For example, I'm using a very awful example. If you're 20 and you're going to an arranged marriage and you have to meet a girl you've never heard of before, and you look for some patterns in the talks that she has and look where she looks, etc. You're doing pattern detection to see whether it is okay for you or not. And the girl is doing the same. She's doing a pattern detection. Will this guy be a good husband or not? Then, it might be some smile that you have, the clothes that you wear, the accent with which you speak, whether you're fluent in English or not, or whether all of this is being determined in that 5-minute encounter which determines your life. So I'm sure all that's behind us. None of the kids today do arranged marriages, maybe, who knows. And no, so pattern detection is a field by itself. How to detect patterns and what constitutes a pattern. Again, when you go to Amazon books and put pattern detection, you get about 5,000 titles under that. So pattern detection is the key thing that machine learning and deep learning and others do, including artificial intelligence. And it seems pattern detection, when you do it algorithmically, it sounds like magic. How did you know I would, fit like this girl? Or how did you know that I would like this dish, etc., without my even trying it? So I think pattern detection saves a lot of money, in many aspects of our professional lives. Detecting good customers versus not so good customers, detecting good customer service reps versus not, providing good answers to the right questions without irritating the customer, locating who's the right customer who will buy your service versus wasting your time chatting up others. Any number of, or even more critically predicting interest rates, gold prices, all of these are pattern detection. Earlier, statistics was the answer for doing it. Okay, today statistics used in a computer is called deep learning. Things have not changed. I told you, linear algebra, which is the core of deep learning, 80-90% is about 1,000 years old. A dot product of matrices, if you kids remember your high school, a dot product of matrix is the key thing. It was discovered and used in India right through for about 1,500 years. That is the core of all so-called deep learning, multiplying one matrix into another dot product. So everything changes, but everything is quite old, very, very old.
So there is one more question by one Mr. Ajay Uttappa of Karnataka Bank. He is asking, in India, which industry is leading the application of AI/ML? If you could cite top 3 industries in a scale of say 1 to 10, and perhaps he also wants to understand where does banking fit in the whole scheme of things.
A lot of the action right now historically from 1995 when all this internet appeared to about 2000 or so, 5 years, most of the applications were in media. Both in the United States and here. And the reason for that is Google, that the big breakthroughs happened in terms of taking things digital, putting them on the internet, for searching and finding search algorithms by the Google founders. So at that time, and then it moved to bypassing the retailer and selling directly. Then e-commerce in its first they came in. And many firms tried, many failed, and a few succeeded and went on. Earlier, there are famous companies which allowed you to download any kind of music you want, and it was wonderful somewhere in 98, 99, we thought it's like magic. And then it was media, then it came e-commerce with people discounting, and part of the reason is in India and in the United States, the margins, when a product has value 100, which is at the factory, the wholesaler will add 40 rupees to it, make it 140. The retailer will add another 40 rupees, make it 200. So it reaches the customer at 200. So that whole 100 rupees extra can be discounted. So you go directly to the manufacturer and say, I'll offer my product 50% free, you keep 25 and I'll keep 25. So manufacturers fintechs, you're getting 100, I'm getting 125, and you're getting 25, and the wholesaler and retailer is left sucking. So it moved there. But then in the last 4 years or so, practically all the action is 4 years is shifted to fintech. So I think it's found its way through media. Now it's going to fintech, and it's about to go into legal tech. Or shall I tell you a story? I've been doing this 2-3 hours a day, so I spend a lot of time on researching Supreme Court judgments and converting, doing algorithms on that. So I've come to a stage where you show me the bench of the who's hearing a petition, and the full text of the petition I can predict with now about 85% accuracy what the judgment will be. Okay, look at the future of judges and courts. So I'm not publicizing it, but I want to put it into a journal first, and then so that 85% must rise to about 90-95%. So I think on those areas, diagnostics of doctors, if you, again, it's a very real, if you're a auto rickshaw driver in Bombay and you fall ill, or your wife falls ill, and you're living in a Jobbatpatti, and you want to go to a doctor, you can't, because he charges you 500 rupees. He can't afford it. Daily wages is 2,000 at most, 1,500 at most. So we need some, we should be able to get that auto driver just hold, he or his wife hold the mobile tightly and then speak into it and cough into it, and he should get a diagnosis one shot. And point him where is the nearest place to get a pill. So I think my father and grandfather will have a heart attack. Say, oh God, at least what are you saying? No jobs for doctors here. So but there are things to be done. I think, but at the moment, lots of effort is going into fintech, particularly in the United States, where fintech is a very big part of the economy. I think, I don't remember the number, 8 or 9 or 10% of GDP is fintech, financial services in whole. So, and lots of things are going on there. Okay, have we done almost?
Yeah, maybe a few more questions. Sir. There is, we were discussing about anonymization of data, and you would also perhaps know that India is already been practicing a lot of democratization of data, and bankers have used this democratization of data. Democratization of data. So what I was telling, India is already using much of the democratization of data route, and bankers have used that optimally. We talk about central KYC. Now Reserve Bank a few months back have allowed even video KYC that can be done by bankers. So similarly, even in say wading through proposals. On say cash flows of customers, you can always access democratized data available in the GST and so on and so forth. So somewhere along the democratization of data element is being used by all the engines using AI and ML to predict behavior, be it on the loan side or even in customer acquisition or in process related KYC fulfilling and such things. So how do you see this going forward? What kind of further innovations are possible in the AI ML space?
It's complex because the area of like privacy and democratization are, unfortunate. Some of it is in the beholder's eye, some of it is in the beholder's eye. So I think it is, I'm still to make up my mind on which of these are real issues to tackle today. Privacy can be solved by anonymization. So that is one part. Because you need the, let's say the Aadhaar card data, if it falls into the wrong hands, can be misused very, very badly. You can use it to ban them from school or predict the caste and make sure certain caste people are not allowed and all that kind of gang. But both are valid debates, both are valid. Democratization of data means making it available on a dispassionate basis to a large number of researchers and analysts, and not be a secret hoard of some either a government guy or a private guy or something, or a tahsildar, it doesn't matter who. We have to work our way through that. No clear. All the problems are not yet that evident. Like privacy again, where does privacy end and where does, for example, legal regulation and anti-espionage work stop? Oh God, these are valid debates to have, and I don't think anyone has. The answers will evolve as you go along. I know there's no simple. These are good goals to keep. Yeah?
Thank you, sir. So thank you, and you've been kind enough to answer all the questions.
Oh, thank you. I
Going
learned.
through the groups that we create. Yeah,
I
and
learned quite a
when
bit.
spending. Yes. And thank you, sir, for being with us, and also thank the MD and CEO of Karnataka Bank for the intro before the
Yeah.
session started, and the entire team of delegates and delegates who could tune in and benefit from this. So it's a very big subject. So I'm sure sir was suggesting even now the screen is showing a whole lot of books on that, and possibly people with interest and need to pursue and take it forward. And it's a very big initiative. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Sir,
giving
if
me.
at all you want to speak anything, Mahabaleshwar.
No, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Please, sir.
I think he has provided a lot of insight, and definitely we will try our level best to utilize all those points because, as I said in the beginning, future is in disruptions and powered by technology. So, of course, Karnataka Bank is very much on track. We are implementing our holistic transformation journey. We are presently at the phase 2 of that transformation journey. And today's talk has immensely helped all of us to understand clearly what is in store for us in an era of digital age. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajit.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I hope you all meet
Thank
for
you.
a drink someday when all this COVID lifts. Okay, take care.
Please
Shall I
do
sign up?
visit us, sir. In fact, our invitation is pending. Yeah, you might have seen our infrastructure. We have one of the best infrastructure in India when it talks
I know
about.
where you are. I used to travel to Calcutta every 3 months when I was the chairman
I
there.
know.
So, I know.
Yes.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you, one and all, for those who tuned in and be benefiting from this particular initiative. We will be conducting more programs in future also. So please write to us for any themes of relevance, any themes which you want, on which we can always run programs for the larger understanding by the masses. Thank you. Thank you. And any other, all the feedback regarding the particular programs, you can leave it in the chat box. And we will keep, generally, we have, as I was telling you, any new themes in which we have already done this year itself programs on blockchain. We brought in Jaspreet Bindra a few months back to discuss on blockchain. A lot of technology themes we have already dabbled. But you can always suggest and you can always cite what is your feedback on this particular program, how has it benefited, and so on and so forth. So you can write the chat box, and any new themes are also welcome. And once this is an initiative where any of our executive, program participants will be getting the invites for all such programs when we connect wider on a wider basis. So that will help you a whole lot of clarity, and we try to bring in the best and brightest to celebrate. Thank you.